Hey there, welcome to the Vacation Rental Life Show. My name is Matt Ward. I'm here with my good buddy Derek Eaton and our Vacation Rental Life Facebook group fans. They are real fans because they show up not all the time, but a lot of the time. And Karen Griffin shows up like all the time, which we love. And John On shows up some of the time when he's not doing dishes, or some of the time when he's actually doing dishes. But that's how it is. It's a very casual group from all over the place. We got Elliot Rosen on tonight and Francisco Arango. And hopefully I said all your names right. Derek, what is going on this week?
Well, the Data and Revenue Management Conference that Amy Hinote and some others put on is on this week. So some interesting data coming out of that I might share with everybody.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a few minutes. What else you got going on? How's things in Seattle right now? You're in Seattle, right? How's the smoke and stuff?
Horrible.
Is anybody coming out there?
People have had some concerns of people wanting to cancel because of concerns of the smoke. I told them what the best.
Is it your extenuating circumstances policy?
Yeah, exactly. People wanting to cancel because of that. And to be honest, most of the people were planning to come towards the end of this week that have reached out to me. And the data I had last week was that, we were supposed to get rain yesterday and today, and that was going to clear it up and we'd be in the clear, but that hasn't happened yet. We had like couple days of sprinkles and not enough to actually clear this stuff out. So our latest projections are hoping that this clears up before the weekend. I actually saw some blue sky today, just brief periods, so that was comforting to not just see smoke, but it's definitely spotty. I've never seen this bad of smoky skies, and I was in LA during some of the San Bernardino fires, and this seems so much worse than that. So unhealthy range where we're supposed to stay inside and not go outside, and
Karen, really, you're in Colorado, right?
Yes, we don't have any smoke right now. The western fires are blowing around us, and our fires, I don't know where the smoke is going, but it's not coming this direction.
Aren't a lot of your fires also kind of calmed down because of the snow and stuff?
Yeah, snow will do that.
Yeah. So that was some good news on your front, at least. That's your state basically stopped burning. So
I mean, I was watching the news tonight, and I'm starting to believe I can't believe anything on the news. I mean, I know a lot of people have said that before, but they literally reported you could see the smoke in New York City, and they showed this chart of the United States and the whole wind thing and just how all the air was moving all the smoke across the United States. But then, like, you talk to Karen, who's a hell of a lot closer to New York City, and she's not having it. You know, and granted, it might be the trade winds and all that.
Yeah, it's blowing right over us.
It's
Wyoming and Idaho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it really getting to New York City, or are they just?
I talked to a friend of mine in Spain this week, and he said that he was getting some of our smoke in Spain.
My family's in New Jersey, not too far from New York City, and they have not said anything about smoke.
If he's not doing dishes, he's doing work on the property. That was really good. Yeah. You can actually, did you use your feet to control that saw? Exactly how did that work?
It's called, I have contractors here working on the property while I'm trying to live in the property.
Yeah.
I'm living in two construction zones right now.
Yeah.
So anyway.
You're always in construction.
Yeah, Matt, when we started this whole thing, my house in New Jersey was under construction. Now here I am in Hawaii, and I have two of my properties on, doing renovation work. So
wow,
that's just the way it
good
goes.
To be you right now, John. On good to be you.
I wish.
It's better to do construction now when you can't rent the property than get it out of the way now.
The renovation was actually something that I had on the roadmap for some time in 2020, back in 2019. But I just I was worried about when am I going to shut it down. and here it is now.
All right, Derek, let's move on to the data graphs that you got. We may not have to go a full hour tonight.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
What do you got to share with us on the revenue data management side, or whatever it is you've got?
Let me share some of these screens here. Let's see. So this was kind of a start off a little bit of a depressing graph, and mind you, this is cut off. I didn't get the bottom of this, unfortunately. This second to largest dip. This
2008.
was 2008. Yeah, 2001, right here, and this was, I think, the 99 crash.
Wow.
And so this is where we are as of July 2020, as far as occupancy dip. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. What's that?
Where is this?
This was U.S. wide. So this is from Star Reports, STR, which primarily looks at hotel data, but they are getting into the vacation rental data as well.
Okay.
So this is across the United States. There are some more regional graphs that I grabbed too, that are interesting. But yeah, this was a little shocking to me, I guess, like in that I worked through the 2008 dip, and I mean, I guess in some ways it makes sense because this does feel worse, but it doesn't seem 2 times worse, which is what the data shows here, at least. So
Derek, is this adjusted for growth? I mean, there's a lot more rooms now than there were in 2008.
So this is occupancy. This is just occupancy related. So I doubt that it's corrected for how many rooms are available.
Well, I guess it's percentage, right? So
it's a percentage.
Then it is normalized by the number.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's down 25%, 20%.
Yeah, it's down 25% for looking at the prior period as a, compared to the prior period kind of thing. So, yeah, so that was this is, to start off with kind of a,
it's ugly.
Depressing look. So this kind of goes into what I shared on the preamble of for those that were here early. So this is looking at RevPAR, the higher end properties, the luxury class and upscale class of hotels have been hit on RevPAR harder than the economy and mid-scale and upper mid-scale. Their assumption on this was that it was largely due to business travel and group travel, that those tend to be in luxury class and upscale class properties versus lower. So that was their kind of explanation of why this was. And here's what traditionally are the top 25 markets in the United States with ADRs over $100, and kind of where they are, where they were for the week ending in September 5th.
Well, I'm surprised to see Boston up that high as a top market.
Well, but
Just got regulated.
Yeah, highly regulated. So Boston, I mean, over $100 a night, but I mean, it was at 110 for the week ending in September 5th. So Labor Day weekend, which is a peak weekend, it was at that. And to put it in perspective, like Seattle's on this graph too, under 100. So let's call that maybe 90.
Yeah, and you're normally getting a lot higher than that, right?
Well, average RevPAR for the year in Seattle is 175. And then when you're talking peak weekend, I imagine the hotel market, and mind you, this is Star Report, so this is looking at hotel data. I would assume for Labor Day weekend, normal would be 250 at least, not higher, maybe 300. So, but we were at 90. So it kind of interesting to see where these different markets are at. I mean, Dallas too, Dallas down $79, when normally this is a market over $100 a night. So that's a 25% hit at least.
And that's including the fact that a lot of hotels have closed during this period, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I don't think I grabbed any of those graphs, but they did cover today a little bit about the supply decrease. Their projection was that the supply decrease is going to be short. It's not on the hotel side, at least. They think that while some hotels may shutter because it's not a convertible asset, there's nothing else you can really do with the hotel other than be a hotel. Worst case scenario, it goes into foreclosure, someone buys it for pennies on the dollar and then reopens it. So long term, they don't think that there's going to be that much difference in supply. This kind of goes into the winners and losers a little bit. So drive to versus fly to markets and how they're hit. So the drive to markets are up 138 or at 138% of normal revenue versus the fly to markets are at 37% of revenue. So kind of a interesting graph. And it's interesting to see that Seattle is listed as a top fly to market, according to AirDNA's data.
How do they know that?
What's that?
How do they know? Are they basing it on the address of the guest who's booking?
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
they wouldn't know that. How would they know that?
If they have an integration with the software, if they have integration to the actual
They have
booking
some
data.
truthing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be perfect data. And same, I guess,
Yeah.
if they're scraping the information from Airbnb too.
Cell phone area code.
Yeah.
But they can't scrape that. It's not publicly available.
No, they log in. You log in with a phone number on Airbnb.
You do, but they don't necessarily have access to
Yeah, AirDNA, I don't think has access.
Oh,
to
AirDNA.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but they would have it if you integrate with them and you give them your part of the data.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe they're just looking at, flights and the percentage of travelers that come to that city is, publicly.
Well, my guess is that when they ran the data, Elliot, they probably ran it with the variable records only, meaning they filtered out the stuff. So for instance, if they used area code as an example or zip code as an example, they only pulled back the records in the database that had that, and then they compared that data to see how close they were. That must be what they're doing or something. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a complete guess, like you're talking about.
Yeah, I would guess it's probably just based on what the tourism statistics are saying. This percentage of travelers are coming from flying historically versus driving.
Or airport activity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which you pull from airport activity. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
survey data.
Oh, I guess I'm happy that Honolulu is one of the top destinations.
Yeah.
You can only fly to it.
Yeah.
That's
You
my
can't
only
drive
option.
to it.
And
Well,
you're
you
not
can
going to
road
cruise. You're not going to cruise to it right now.
Yep.
You can road to it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty epic row, but yeah, it's interesting too. Like Kie too is a top fly to. I mean, it makes sense, but there's two of the top markets there in Hawaii, which are basically shut down. So that's going to have a lot of influence on this revenue side of things and the revenue change. Because
That does indicate, though, Derek, that once the quarantine is over, like if people are still coming in with quarantine, that, demand will increase quite a bit, hopefully.
yeah, I think it will. I think it will. Let's see here. So this kind of goes a little bit more into destinations outperforming cities. This is interesting to me to see, because especially since Seattle's in this market, like July average revenue, July 2020, and seeing my numbers and comparing my numbers to those, that was interesting. And I was also surprised to see that Portland actually is doing as well as it is, given all the civil unrest that's going on down there. I figured that their data would be worse than Seattle's, and when actually they're doing better.
That's because all the people are coming in from out.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
They're driving it, not flying it, according to
Antifa
AirBNB.
has to stay somewhere. Is that what you're saying?
They got to rest up during the day.
Yeah.
They're perfect guests. They only sleep and they go out during the day.
Well,
And they drive in. They didn't fly.
You barely know they're there.
Yeah.
certainly agree with what I see with Breckenridge. It was hopping up here.
Yeah. In one of these graphs, I was actually surprised, Matt. I saw Fort Myers as one of the top markets. None of these that I screenshotted, but there was one that specifically called out how well Fort Myers was doing as a destination year over year.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just something.
A lot of local travel, right? Everything is driving distance, 200 miles. So if that's a secondary destination. Miami's hurting because normally Miami has a lot of international travel in addition to local.
Well, but they were also on the last sheet as one of the top fly to destinations in the last screenshot he grabbed.
Because normally they are fly to, right? But all those people that are flying aren't coming. So maybe the destinations that aren't so attractive in Florida that wouldn't be so hot, they end up looking a lot better because they didn't have fly to begin with.
Well, we had here in Fort Myers, we had a lot of international stuff early on, first 3-4 years. But there's not a great drive-to market here, in my opinion. I mean, that really you're talking like Atlanta, some Birmingham. We've had a couple guests from Birmingham, some from Georgia, some from South Carolina, but not really. Because it's comparatively, it's far to get to here than it is to get to like Panama City Beach, which is like half the time.
St. Augustine or
we're
Jacksonville or
we're a good 6-7 hours from Jacksonville,
Wow.
It takes us quite a while to get to the top of the state. And so, I mean, just to get to Tampa alone is 2 hours. Orlando's 3. So Orlando to Jacksonville is probably another 3 hours, So, when I drove down here from Charleston, I was down here in 8.5 hours from Charleston. So, and that was a drive across the top of the state and then down through Tampa. So the problem with this being a drive-to destination is that there's so many other spots you can stop along the way. That's the big problem. And so we've had some stuff, but I think to your point, Derek, is there has to be something here that they want to come for. And for a long time, it was baseball, and the Roy Hobbs World Series that ran for 6 or 8 weeks every year for like adults of every age. And it's just destroyed. But, the governor, DeSantis, said he'll never shut the state down again. It did too much harm. He said that last week.
Well, look at how many of these places and the destinations, and mind you, I don't know why they picked these cities, but look at this AirDNA. So Breckenridge at the top of the percentage change, but everything else is Florida until the bottom being Las Vegas, Nevada. And Las Vegas, Nevada, that surprised me that they actually outperformed year over year. But maybe that's because so many of the casinos shut down that the vacation rentals ended up doing better. But look at that. I mean, you have Panama City Beach, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Sarasota, Santa Rosa, St. Petersburg, and Miramar Beach, all in
8 out of 10, huh?
Yeah.
So it must be
double-digit positive.
The warm weather and the beaches, because people feeling outside, they can be socially distant, have warm weather. Virus less likely to spread.
So this is probably a good sign for John once flights do resume. It's a sign that people want the beach.
Well, they just want to be outside.
Yeah.
And which would surprise me why more of Colorado isn't on there.
Also, too, look at the increase with Las Vegas, Derek.
Yeah.
It's like $250 in
Yeah,
total
it's
revenue for the month.
Yeah, it's a 6%. Like, it's not huge, but
Yeah.
it's still a real positive change versus
Yeah.
negative.
And you
Negative
see
one.
that on the other list, the cities, though, the
Yeah.
dense populated cities are the ones that are down because there's more people there closer together.
Yep. Seattle there.
Boom, there I am. I'm like Fauci all of a sudden. You can just like wear a mask and boom, yeah, Fauci.
Oh, if it was only that simple. Let's see. And I think that's the last slide that I pulled. Yeah, I think that is it. But anyway, so that it was interesting. I'm glad I went. I only got to go to, I think, 3 of the sessions today. There's more tomorrow, and
These sessions are recorded, right?
Yeah, if you pay for it, you get to log in and watch them. They'll be up. All of today's sessions will be loaded up supposedly tomorrow, so I don't have to. And they'll be there for a year, so I can review them later. But yeah, no, it's good. I'm glad I made the investment to go, and like I said, just to hear and kind of talk, not really, since it was more webinar format, but to hear some of the voices from the industry that I normally get to see 2 to 3 or to 4 times a year at different conferences. That's not happening. Who knows when the next vacation rental conference is live in person is going to be. Amy seemed to think that because she was hoping to still do her women's conference in February, but the booking agents for the speakers are telling her that not until July. That, basically that she shouldn't expect any live.
She should call my agent.
You're gonna speak at the Vacation Rental Women's Conference?
Yeah. There's been plenty of women's conferences with male speakers.
I acknowledge that, but I think Amy's goal is to have all women speakers.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Maybe Lisa. Maybe get Lisa to speak.
No. That's right.
But yeah.
That's it. What's going on with you guys? You got anything pressing you want to talk about tonight?
I'll just tag on to kind of the data conference that Derek went to. I actually I signed up for it, but I missed it because I was actually in another conference. It's called the Distressed Hotel Conference. And so it was the hotel industry talking about their industry and, recovery and whatnot. And I will say their prognosis and their outlook seemed a lot more grim and dire than what I'm hearing from the short-term rental industry. They're literally talking about, recovering. All the experts are like, recovery will be 2025, 2024. That's kind of like their estimate for recovery for their market overall. They're talking about 20 to 40% adjustment in sales of hotel properties. And then they were also discussing how they thought hotels were much safer than short-term rentals. Of course, that's what they say. And they only focus on the cleanliness of the rooms, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, you have your standards, but then you have your lobby and your elevator and you have all that stuff, but they seem to kind of ignore all that. And they also discussed what is the impact of short-term rentals going to have on their recovery. And I think the takeaway from that discussion was really that they were concerned about unregulated markets. In other words, where people are going into residential areas and having, short-term stays. But in urban markets and whatnot, they were not all that concerned about short-term rentals because it's fundamentally a different product. So that was kind of the range of information that I gathered from, from this discussion.
Interesting. So they're more worried about vacation rentals existing in markets where basically it's impossible to put a hotel.
Exactly.
Than in the markets where they can have a hotel and be next door.
Right. Again, this is one conference. There were a lot of experts, but that seemed to be kind of the trajectory, the direction that everyone was thinking. And some of them were like, yeah, I just went to a drive-to destination, and we stayed at an Airbnb. I was like, see? So anyway, I didn't catch all the sessions, so I'm going to be going back to that again, today, tomorrow, and try to glean some more information. Kind of being a fly on the wall on our enemy per se, but then also I might pick up some potential strategies or things to consider that we're not talking about in the short-term rental industry. So that's kind of why I jumped in on that conference rather than the revenue management.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear that they're more worried about about vacation rentals existing in markets where they can't really operate in. Like
why are they worried about that? I didn't really understand why.
They're just jealous, basically. They think it's unfair that vacation rentals can exist in residential zones that they can't operate in, basically.
Where they have no chance of operating in. So.
I see.
Yeah, that again, a handful of experts talking, but that seemed to be kind of the thinking, and they weren't worried about urban markets having short-term rentals.
Is that because the urban markets are more regulated?
It's regulated, and they can operate, right? So
they don't feel like they have empty rooms because of short-term rentals.
Okay.
Right, and they discussed that. They're like, 2019 was our best year ever, and we had short-term rentals, competing against us, and it didn't really make a difference. Anyway.
Yeah, because ultimately short-term rentals are bringing more traffic to that area anyway, and if they can't rent with the short-term, they'll book at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it is a different stay. The average hotel stay tends to be 1.2 nights. That's the average hotel stay versus vacation rental stay is more like 3.5 or more.
Also, you have to think about this. You have no idea how many times I've looked at an Airbnb or VRBO property and all the ones where I need to go. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Let me just punch in Hilton.com. It's bad. I mean, the photos are bad. It's like Realtor.com photos when people list their house for sale and it's just junk everywhere in the house. And
yeah,
I mean,
you're like, is this a foreclosure property?
Or a sofa for rent?
Yeah, sofa.
They'll have their toothbrush on the sink.
Yeah, bad news.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? At least I know with the franchise model of a Hilton or a Hampton Inn or something, I know what I'm getting there.
That's what they were banking on. They're like, people have consistency when they stay at a hotel and don't know what you're getting if you're going to a short-term rental.
Yeah, that's true because there's no standards. And I see people complaining all the time who are hosts, and it seems like the number one complaint that I get is that expectations aren't met. However, it's boiled down to whether they're legitimate or not, it's around expectations. So I don't think they have much to worry about.
No, I think it's true and it's not true at the same time. Like what I have seen in the vacation rental space, from the start of Airbnb to where Airbnb is today, the level of professionalism of your average host on Airbnb has improved like 10x. It used to be a lot rougher out there.
Right. Well, they say in a lot of industries, including the speaking industry, that it's not hard to be a great speaker. The bar is set so low.
Yeah. So are you saying that I'm not necessarily a great host because I'm a super host? It's just that the bar's so low that.
Yeah,
All
because
right.
anybody can be a super host. It's algorithmic. And there's nothing about this business that should be algorithmic.
I disagree.
Yeah.
A lot of algorithms to take care of all the day-to-day routines.
Look,
and things.
fine, you can take care of that, but if you eliminate the personal, you're done.
I agree.
Yeah.
Partly why there are places like bed and breakfast that have been around so long, even when hotels were growing at the speed and rate in which they were growing, and Airbnbs are too, that actual bed and breakfasts are still there, because they provide that environment that the other products don't.
Yeah. I haven't.
You want a knitted blanket on your bed, you go to an actual
a knitted blanket that's not been cleaned during COVID.
Look, I'm just saying, but now, this whole sharing economy has turned into literally here, you can rent my pool, you can rent my backyard, you can go glamping, you can rent my RV, my trailer. I mean, there's something for everybody, I suppose.
You can even rent your neighbor's lawnmower. There's a site for that too, where you can list like yard tools and things like that, where you can, I forget what it's called, but I remember
with your car,
Yeah. Yeah. I bet Toro is going to be really big with, because I don't know how they could have regulated that, because I know right now tourists can't rent cars in Kauai until after they're done with quarantine. But I bet that Toro's doing awesome for those that are putting those up to get around
Interesting.
the rules.
So how do they get to where they're going to quarantine?
It's one way that they're trying to force people into area hotels and not a vacation rental, and because then they can get picked up by the hotel shuttle or take a cab. I think, and that's the crazy thing too. Like they said that as a tourist, you have to take a cab and not a Uber or Lyft. Why? I don't know. Especially on Kauai, where there's like seriously like 5 cabs on the entire island. Not that there's that many more Ubers or Lyfts, but that's it's crazy. It's crazy what they're talking about doing to try and limit that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we open up October 1's around the corner, and that's the current. What are you thinking, John?
You didn't hear Ike yesterday?
No, I hadn't heard any update.
He was interviewed, and he's like, it's most likely not going to open up October 1, which basically means it's not going to open up October 1, right?
Yeah.
And his reasoning was the hotel industry needs time to prepare. And so they're not going to open up until the hotels can open, which is like, it's like just like literally saying that's in bed with the hotel industry, hotel.
You realize he's a hotelier himself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, no, like the restaurants need tourists, right? It's not just hotels, and it was like maddening seeing him.
The surf shop
put the
needs
target.
Yeah,
Right. Put a target for opening based on what hotels need. And it was just like, you gotta be kidding me. Sorry, I had to go on the rant.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I hadn't heard that update. The last update I heard was that despite Lieutenant Governor Green getting COVID, he wanted to open it up October 1. So
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not too surprised. So I'll plan on going on quarantine then when I get back to Kauai as soon as I can hire somebody. If you know anybody in the Seattle market that's looking for a job.
Or anybody willing to fly to the Seattle market to work.
Yeah, exactly. At first, I haven't been taking people willing to move seriously, but now I might have to change that bar and
Yeah.
accept somebody.
Good, good. Anything else before we wrap up tonight? Kind of a slow night here, the Vacation Rental Life Roundtable discussion. I want to thank all you guys for coming on.
Elliot, do you have
Little
something
bit
here?
COVID.
You know, I just started floating some ideas for pivoting to fund other interesting projects that don't take a lot of startup money. Some of my buddies have been thinking about doing tiny houses, or on the even smaller scale, the yurts and tents, setting them up on, campsites and such outside of urban centers within an hour. Anybody want to opine on the ideas of pivoting
You know what I had,
something
Elliot?
simple and fun?
For years, I've had this idea of this campfire ring, and around that, in sort of a spoke and wheel configuration, would be 8 to 10 containers made into small one-bedroom studios, in which people could come and they could either rent one or they could rent them all as a big group of people. And so now they're in this camping environment, but they don't have to have an RV or a camper. And if they have, I was going to do it in ATV friendly New Hampshire. And so they could drive in and drive out on their ATVs and right off to the trail, or snowmobiles and everything. And I looked into it. It was just a little too expensive to make the money back, I think, at the cap rate I wanted. But it's an interesting idea that I continue to toss around in my head.
Sure.
And I've done a lot of research on the floor plans. I wasn't sure that one container would be enough space. It might have to be two.
It can be. It's definitely an efficient space. David Krause with Noiseware has a container place in Dallas that he rents out on Airbnb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a single container.
Elliot, where were you hoping to do it?
I'm sorry?
Where were you hoping to do this?
I've been throwing around the idea in some of my groups for professional operators. We've been discussing tiny houses and prefab, and this week there was some discussion on even more simple setups, that you could throw up real quickly, like a yurt, a fancy tent with luxury furnishings. The difficulties end up being the comforts of glamping that you would want to include, like shower and running water and this kind of thing. So I'm starting a few units up in New Hampshire, in Vermont, and Western Virginia later this month. They already have property built, but in addition to that, we're going to just play with the end of the season on the property with something more temporary, and that would involve setting up a temporary cabin or trailer or yurt with a portable fancy shower porta john, basically.
A couple hoses,
so you drop that in and
little crank faucet that might get you some water.
Yeah, they do quite a bit of that in Colorado.
So yeah, there's a number of companies that have been playing with this, and they've just blown up. One of them got written up in the Washington Post again this last week for dropping their trailers in close by to state parks or national parks and providing the basics and some firewood and some food and $200 a night, especially on a weekend, closer to $300 a night. They're fully booked through.
My daughter rented a yurt by Hot Springs for $1,000 a night.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, selling the experience, right? It's all in the pictures and the romanticism and the drama of the presentation. But right now, there's a low supply of this. It's fairly low barrier to entry, but the season is short in certain latitudes above the equator in North America. So, you know, you figure
Well,
out.
and Elliot, if you put one in Florida, you're going to have to put air conditioning in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, and deal with the bugs and other issues. There's just a number of headaches that can come up. But I thought I'd use the rest of the season to experiment with it for under $10,000, and then figure out how to do it right in the spring and summer of the following year.
If
Elliot,
you're,
can I?
yeah. Just a quick idea, Elliot, on the front, and then yeah, John. If you're looking in Virginia, you might want to reach out to hunt camps, because they probably have underutilized land that you could put these on in the springtime and the summer, as long as it's not the fall when they're out there hunting. You would need to take it down or not have anybody out there, or maybe there's value add there that if you leave them there during the fall season, the hunt camp gets to use them for their members. And work out some sort of arrangement that way where you can make revenue and maybe share some of the revenue during the off season, but then
That's a great idea, Derek, until somebody gets the hunting dates wrong. And somebody's liable.
In Virginia, there's no getting that wrong. Everybody knows when like the people that are hunters know when the
Post season, then it's gun
somebody
season.
when they were duck hunting. Didn't Dick Cheney do that?
Yeah, there it's deer season.
He shot
deer is the big thing.
Yeah.
They're vermin.
Good eating
everywhere.
Yeah, you can see it. You know, so you know, a number of my clients have pivoted from urban rentals, and you know, rather than sinking more money into the urban rentals in DC and the suburbs and along the East Coast, everyone's going, and you can see the land prices. The prices have gone up 30 to 50% outside of urban areas from DC all the way to New York, and people are just buying up land and space because this is a trend, and you can do a lot of things with it. I think there's a desire to go and explore it, maybe probing it on a economical scale of something temporary build where you can take it up and take it down for the season, maybe a quick move to pivot to if you want to try out something new.
Yeah. John, what were you gonna? Oh.
I have some noise in the background, but
yeah.
Just one thing, Elliot. The one thing that you said is it's relatively low barrier of entry.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's kind of a warning sign of like, think hard before investing a lot of time into it, because then, you know, pretty soon everyone's jumping in. Like, so that's the way I think. It's like, I want some barrier of entry. So like, for example, Uber is like such low barrier of entry because you literally could pick up a junker and start driving, right? Whereas Airbnb, yes, you can rent, but someone has to have that property, right? And so getting the property is kind of a barrier. So anyway, just the way I think of it is if you're starting off with, this is a low barrier of entry, it might be good for like a short period of time, but then like, you know, it could get watered down so quickly. That's why I don't like markets like, you know, I think it's in Texas, there's like very little regulation, or Arizona. And people are like, oh, this is great, there's no regulation. And it's like, actually, having some regulation is a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, it's maybe an exploratory play in the 6 to 18 months, and a learning opportunity. But you do want to think about the long shot. Is this a 3 to 5 year play or not? And if not, is it worth my time to invest in something that?
Yeah, just my perspective, but obviously, you know, I play differently than some other people. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting thought. But yeah, I think the underutilized hunt camps could be a good target because The only other revenue that hunt camps that I know about, and my wife's family has multiple that they're either owners of or members of, is logging. So, they do, specific logging to get revenue, cutting out stuff that's rotten and selling that, or doing that type of activity, or it's the hunt activity. And
That's all. The logging is often how they pay their land taxes.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if
Good
you
point.
can create another revenue stream for them, and or more comforts for their members to come out and stay in, sometimes I think hunt camps are purposefully pretty rustic and not.
I mean, I cannot wait for the first complaint that your location is too far from a grocery store.
That's the point, right? No Wi-Fi.
You
Disconnect.
know what? You think that's the point, but then the people don't read the listing and they keep driving. They're like, we thought we'd be here quicker, and
Or
that's your
bugs.
fault. And
Yeah, the bugs, the cicadas, complaints about the cicadas, or
The neighbors are too loud.
yeah,
yeah,
I couldn't sleep all night. There were too many noises.
yeah.
I'm
think
wondering why
millennials are
my
gonna start
noise
traveling
aware is going
differently.
off. It's the damn
Yeah.
cicadas.
Karen, what were you gonna say, Karen?
Just that millennials are going to start traveling differently, and they want that kind of experience as opposed to some cookie cutter house in a neighborhood.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, many of them want to break away.
Mm-hmm. Not necessarily without Wi-Fi. I wasn't saying that, but
Well, I think you could offer both. Maybe you have a premium if you can even get.
Satellite Wi-Fi out there that they can pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the key.
Yeah,
Wi-Fi and firewood. If you can
Yep.
offer both, you're in the
Fireworks?
zone.
no,
Yeah.
firewood
firewood.
Oh,
for Band-Aids too.
Yeah.
And a s'mores package. They'll pay extra.
Yeah,
gotta have your chocolate for sure.
pay extra for your bug spray.
Yeah, it's a full experience, right?
Yeah.
So it all goes in the vending machine, and
Yeah.
it's a new type of hotel package.
Well, it's the type of hotel that you can check out but never leave. Oh, boom, boom, boom. On that note, we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. We're at 9:00 Eastern time. If you want to be part of our Vacation Rental Life Roundtable, make sure you jump in and join us and get the link every week in our Vacation Rental Life group. And yeah, we got some good stuff coming up. We actually have an interview with Ronnie Bartles next week on Facebook ads, paid ads, Google ads, things like that for your vacation rental. So tune in for that for our Expert Spotlight series. And Derek, I'll let you close it out.
All right. Remember to work smart, not hard, and live your vacation rental life. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Hi, guys.
Mahalo.